It's another sweltering summer session as the City California State Assembly comes back from recess tonight. City Broadcasting Corporation's senior legislative correspondent Anthony Rollins brings a report on what to expect from this week's session. Plus, decisively charismatic City on the Hill Governor Karen England announces she's joining the Red Party. How will this affect the balance of power in the State House? The governor will join us later in the show. It's all right here on your number one source for City on the Hill news. The COTH Report starts now. Hello, California, and welcome to the COTH Report for July 20th, 2010. The summer sun isn't the only thing blistering the Sacramento pavement as the City on the Hill Assemblymen return from their most recent recess. Our senior legislative correspondent Anthony Rollins gives us his take on what to expect this week.
If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Or so the old saying goes. But for these brave young men and women, backing away from our nation's greatest challenges simply isn't an option. Welcome to the California Assembly, where assemblymen and their staffs are well accustomed to the deviances and vicissitudes of vicious political life. A recent recess gave these political professionals a well-earned rest, but now they find themselves back at the grind, working to make our state a better place, and keep their sanity while they do it. The gravity and severity of their task cannot be overstated. The assemblymen make a careful dance through a mess of heady political alliances and questionable political authorities, whose sole desire is to manipulate as many votes as possible to their own political ends, and none of these assemblymen want to find themselves behind the 8-ball of political expediency. In a world where voting according to conscience has become a cliché, these assemblymen hope to demonstrate that the day of chivalry and justice has not yet died. For CBC News, I'm Anthony Rollins.
City on the Hill California Governor Karen England made news this weekend with her decision to align herself publicly with the more conservative Red Party. Some pundits say they're shocked, others say they're really not that surprised and that it should have been expected long ago. To help us sort it all out tonight is City on the Hill California Governor Karen England. Governor England, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Governor, tell us about your decision to join the Red Party for this session.
Well, I decided to come out of the closet and admit that I was a Red Party person, and I am just so frustrated with what's going on with the Blue Party and what they're doing to damage City on the Hill. They are running the state into the ground. They are passing legislation that is full of nonsense, and so I am here to use the bully pulpit that I have as governor to try and advance the ideas behind the Red Party.
Well, Governor, many of your opponents claim they're not surprised by this move at all and say that you already govern from the far right. What do you say to these accusations?
Well, it depends on who you ask. There's many of those who think that I have been governing from the left. The truth is, philosophically, I align with the Red Party. So I decided to come out of the closet and, again, use the bully pulpit to advance the ideas that we believe in, which are more conservative, less government, and I'm going to stand behind that. I'm going to continue to govern the way I have in the past.
Well, Governor, despite your Red Party leanings, last year you allowed the marijuana bill to pass into law. Why did you do that if you're so conservative?
Well, that's a very good question, Joel. And the answer to that is I had a really bad chief of staff, and she has since been fired. Meredith Turney, she actually had this bill and let it sit around for longer than the 30 days, and so it automatically became law. It's unfortunate, and I look forward to seeing what is done with the marijuana bill this year, so I can really take a hard look at it, and I will make sure my chief of staff this year gets that bill in front of me, and I really look through it this time before I make a decision.
But as the governor, do you ultimately take responsibility for that?
Ultimately, I do, which is why I fired her, and that's how I took responsibility. And I will, again, look at things this year to see how we can rectify what was done last year by someone who obviously was incompetent and I should have never hired in the first place.
Well, speaking of controversial bills, rumors abound that this year's assemblymen may bring up a bill to ban the import of kangaroo products. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm so conflicted. I am an animal lover. I've spent time in the bush with kangaroos when I was in Australia. I've seen them at the zoo. My daughter had a kangaroo backpack once, and so I love kangaroos. However, kangaroo products are important to the City on the Hill economy, and so I'm really wrestling with that one. That's a bill that I will really struggle with, and I will have to hear the merits and the arguments on both sides of that one.
Well, Governor, you're facing re-election this year, and your campaign manager has told us that you represent a new direction for the state of California and a guiding light in difficult times. But news broke that you got your entire gubernatorial staff lost today on I-80. How can you expect to find California's way through difficult times when you can't even find your way through Rockland?
Well, I would like to say that it was difficult because I was asked to drive at the last minute, and I usually surround myself with very strong people, strong in their different areas of expertise. And I made the mistake of wanting to show them around and got a little bit lost. But we did find where we needed to be, and we were there on time. And like everything, I'm a great problem solver. And so I took that problem and I turned it around, I fixed it, and we were here safely. And I think you were with us, Joel, as well. And I think you will attest we were here on time and everything's gone smoothly. So.
Yes, well, I guess that's an issue for the voters to decide. Governor Karen England, thank you for joining us this evening.
Hey, thank you.
Well, that's your news for July 20th, 2010, but we'll see you tomorrow night on the COTH Report on CBC News. Relevant, honest, and unashamed.